Rockets by Mugdha. Blast off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. There's so much to learn about rockets, from how they are made to how they blast off. So let's launch into our mission all about rockets. On the inside, the rockets that launch into space are made up of 4 major systems based on function. The structural propulsion, payload, and guidance systems are what get the rocket moving. The structural system makes up the frame that holds the rocket together. The propulsion system takes up the most space and includes the rocket engine, fuel, and oxidizer. The payload system. The payload system depends on each mission and consists of anything a rocket carries in space. Guidance system. The guidance system is made up of radars and computers. Launch. In order to launch into space, these 4 systems have to overcome the force of gravity. Once the rocket generates more thrust than its own weight, it lifts into the air to begin its power descent. Power descent. During this phase of the flight, the weight of the rocket will constantly change. The fuel tanks contain lots of fuel, but when they're all out, they will fall into the ocean and be retrieved and reused. Staging. Staging is where rockets reduce dead weight and increase efficiency. This is where they break up the rocket into smaller parts. As the rocket continues into orbit, the guidance system maintains balance to keep the flight trajectory on track. Cutoff. At the right altitude and speed, the upper safety cuts off. Lots and lots of rockets have been launched into space, but every successful launch is another significant victory. History. Long ago here on Earth, as far as we know, rockets were used as early as the 13th century. The first known rockets were introduced by the Chinese in 1232 AD. By the 16th century, the use of rockets for amusement had spread from Asia to Europe. Evolution. During the following centuries, the works of scientists like Isaac Newton and his laws of motion began to greatly increase knowledge behind the forces of rocketry and how to control them. By the end of the 18th century, military forces around the world began to apply these new scientific understandings to the battlefield. True dawn of space rocketry. However, the true dawn of space rocketry began in the early 20th century. By the 1950s, the stage was set for modern space age. Rocket families. Facts. Types of rockets propellant. There are 4 different types of rocket propellant. The main types of rocket propellants are solid fuel, liquid fuel, cold gas, and iron. Liquid fuel is the most powerful rocket propellant, while cold gas is the weakest but safest. There are a few advantages as well as disadvantages for each rocket propellant, and each is unique in a special way. Solid fuel propellant. Solid fuel propellant can be used in the main booster. Solid fuel propellant was the first known rocket propellant. Liquid fuel propellant. The liquid fuel propellant can be used in the main booster as well as the small control. Cold gas propellant. The cold gas propellant can be used in the small control. Advantages. Ion propellant. Ion propellant can be used as an in-space booster. Back to Earth. Okay, so we've launched off, circled into orbit, visited some aliens, got our research, and now it's time to return home. turning on engines. Before the rocket returns home, it has to get out of orbit. Once the rocket is out of orbit, there will be more and more gravity as the rocket comes closer to Earth. Falling back to Earth. When the rocket is finally inside Earth's atmosphere, gravity will take over. The rocket will usually land in the water. In other cases, it will land on the runway. Hands-on. Now that we know what a rocket does, it's time to see it in action. I've made a model rocket as well as a paper rocket. I will be launching the paper rocket. Hope you enjoyed my experiment. Model rocket pictures. Here's some pictures of the model rocket. Launching the rocket. Falling back to Earth. When the rocket is finally inside the Earth's atmosphere, gravity will take over. The rocket will usually land in the water. In other cases, it will land on the runway. Hands-on. Now that we know what a rocket does, it's time to see it in action. I've made a model rocket as well as a paper rocket. I will be launching the paper rocket. Hope you enjoyed my experiment. Model rocket pictures. Some pictures of the model rocket. Launching the rocket. This is my trifold. It includes the same information as my PowerPoint, just in shortened amounts. And these are extra rocket pictures from NASA.